Never underestimate the power of practice. Let me ask you something. Think of the one skill you have always wanted to build: a language, a craft, a communication style, or a physical discipline. Something you told yourself you would eventually get to. Something you imagined yourself doing maybe for years. Now ask yourself honestly, how many hours have you actually put into practicing it? Most people never answer that question out loud because the answer is uncomfortable. We think about things, we plan things, we read about things, but we do not practice. And then we wonder why we are not growing.
कोरेजोटिक व्यूज इंसानियत जो पैगाम कोरेजोटिक व्यूज सच जो ऊंचाइयों नाम कोरेजोटिक व्यूज for all of mankind कोरेजोटिक व्यूज leave no one behind.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Korejo Views. I'm Mushtaq Korejo, and today I want to talk about the single most underestimated force in human development, that is practice. Not motivation, not the talent, not intelligence, only practice. I say underestimated because I spent years underestimating it myself. I was someone who lived in my head, thinking, theorizing, imagining what I would become. What I was not doing was the actual work of becoming. And that gap between imagination and practice cost me years I will never get back. So today I want to share three things backed by science and lived experience that changed how I think about practice and how I finally made it work. Most people don't fail because they are weak. They fail because they never understood the process. And the process begins with one word: practice. Number one, the invisible phase. Why progress hides before it arrives. When you begin something new, truly begin it, not dabble. One of the first things you will feel is this: nothing is happening. You are putting in the hours, you are showing up, and then results are almost invisible. That feeling is one of the most dangerous moments in any journey because most people interpret the absence of visible results as proof that they are doing something wrong. And they stop right before everything was about to change. Science has a name for this phase. It is called the Plateau of Latent Potential. And the best way I have ever heard it explained through the image of an ice cube sitting on a table. Now imagine an ice cube in a room. The temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. You raise it to 26, nothing. You raise it to 28, nothing. You get to 30, then 31 degrees, and still the ice cube sits there completely unchanged. But then you hit 32 and it melts. The ice did not fail at 25 degrees or at 28 or at 31. It was absorbing energy the entire time. The change was happening beneath the surface. You just could not see it yet. Our brain works exactly the same way. I discovered this hard way in 2014 when I decided to start jogging. In the first few weeks, my legs felt like they were breaking. I could not walk properly. After sessions, I was covering 1 kilometer in about 7 minutes, barely a jog. I kept at it 40 minutes every day, pushing toward more speed. But the moment I pushed past a certain intensity, my body refused. I felt like I was hitting the same wall every single time. Then I made a small adjustment. Instead of running every day, I shifted to 3 or 4 days a week. I gave my body the time to absorb the work, to process what I had put in. And something shifted. 7 minutes per kilometer became 6. then 5, then one day, without a dramatic breakthrough moment, I recorded 4 minutes per kilometer. The same distance, the same body, a completely different result. The work I had done in those invisible weeks was not wasted, it was deposited. My body was building the capacity to perform while I was running. I just could not see the receipts yet. If you are stuck mid journey right now, doing everything you can build, seeing almost nothing in return, do not quit. Change the pattern if you need to. Adjust the schedule. Let your mind and body breathe. But do not interpret the silence as failure. You might be at 31 degree. Research published in NPJ Science of Learning confirms this reasoning ability and abstract thinking improve not through repetition alone, but through better pattern recognition, which only emerges after sustained exposure to complex ideas. The brain does not announce when it's rewiring, it simply rewires quietly beneath the surface. Let me tell you one thing, the process you cannot see is often the most important progress you are making. Do not stop, keep working. Number 2, how your brain actually changes. This is the science of deliberate practice. Here is something most people never fully grasp. Practice does not just improve your performance, it physically changes your brain. The scientific term is neuroplasticity. It refers to the brain's ability to recognize itself, to perform new neural connections based on what you repeatedly do and experience. Every time you practice a skill, the neurons involved in that skill and the neurons that fire together wire together. The pathway strengthens, the skill becomes more automatic and more reliable, more natural. You are not just getting better, you are literally reshaping the organ inside your skill. But here is what most people miss. Not all practice produces this effect equally. There is a difference between going through the motions and what psychologist K. Anderson Erickson called deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is focused, intentional, and goal driven. It means you do not simply repeat an action, you identify a specific weakness, you set a clear goal for that session, and you evaluate the result. You practice the hard parts, not the comfortable ones. Mindless repetition does not build mastery, targeted, effortful repetition does. I lived this distinction for years. I practiced my communication skills in a vague way. I would talk, present, attempt, but the real change came when I made it deliberate. Over 6 months, I structured every practice session around a specific weakness. 1 week, it was pace. Then next, it was the opening, then transition, then how I closed. I reviewed recordings, I invited criticism, I did not repeat what felt comfortable, I attacked what felt difficult. 6 months later, I was measurably different communicator, not because I was more talented than before, because I had been more intentional. Remember this, mindless practice builds habit, deliberate practice builds mastery. The difference is whether you are watching yourself grow or just going through the motions. Physical exercise plays a role here too. 45 minutes of exercise 4 days a week measurably improves cognitive function, memory consolidation, and focus. A stronger body supports a sharper brain. Your brain adapts to whatever you expose it to repeatedly, and physical training is one of the most powerful exposure you can give it. The environment you build around your practice matters as much as the practice itself. What you read, what you watch, what you expose your mind to daily, your brain is absorbing and adapting to all of it. Design that environment deliberately, not by accident. Number three methods that make practice stick. Even with the deliberate practice, how you structure your sessions determines whether the learning stays. These three methods are research validated and they work. Method number one, spaced repetition. The human brain is not built to retain everything from a single concentrated session. What is built to do is consolidate learning over time through revisiting. Spaced repetition works by distributing your practice across multiple sessions with intentional gaps between them. Study something deeply, take a break, come back to it a day later, then again after 3 days, then a week. Each time you return, the memory trace strengthens. What you revisit, you retain. What you cram into one session and never revisit, you forget. Usually within 48 hours. The rule is simple: do not try to absorb everything at once. Learn in layers, return deliberately. Method number two, active recall. Most people revise by rereading. That feels productive. But the research is clear. It is one of the least effective ways to retain information. Active recall works differently. Instead of reading your notes again, you close them and then you try to reconstruct what you know from memory. Explain the concept out loud, write it down from scratch, quiz yourself. The act of retrieval, of pulling the information back from memory rather than simply recognizing it on a page, is what strengthens the neural pathway. This is why teachers who ask these students to explain a concept immediately after learning it produces better retention than those who have students reread the material. The effort of retrieval is the training. Here is what I want to suggest you: don't just reread, retrieve, close the book, explain it. The struggle to remember is the learning. Method number three, interleaving. Most people practice one skill intensively until they feel they have it and then move to the next. This feels efficient. The research shows it is not. Interleaving means deliberately mixing two or three related skills within a single practice session rather than drilling each one in isolation. It feels harder, it feels messier, but that difficulty is exactly what builds adaptability. When you switch between related ideas, your brain cannot rely on the momentum of the last repetition. It has to re engage, re access, and reapply. And that extra cognitive work is what makes the skill transferable, not just repeatable in the same controlled context, but usable in real, unpredictable situations. Variation, not repetition alone, builds intelligence. Before we end, I want to say something: one practice that ties everything together. Everything I have shared today, the deliberate practice, the speed repetition, the spaced repetition, the active recall, the interleaving, requires something to work. And attention in the world we live in now is one of the hardest things to protect. So here is what I want you to add to your day: 5 to 10 minutes of focused breathing, not a spiritual exercise, as a cognitive one. Sit with your thoughts. When your attention drifts, bring it back deliberately. You are training the most fundamental skill of all: the ability to direct your own mind. Research in mindfulness and attention shows that this practice, brief but consistent, measurably improves focus, reduces cognitive interfaces, and increases the quality of deliberate work sessions. And finally, I want to reframe something for you before we close. Every time you practice and you make a mistake, and you will, I need you to hear it differently than most people do. A mistake is not a signal that you don't belong here. It is a signal that you are at the exact age of your current ability. And that age is precisely where growth happens. Mistakes are not failures, they are the most accurate feedback your practice will ever give. Listen to them. Let me bring this back to where we started. You are not failing because you lack talent. You are stuck because you are not smart enough, disciplined enough, or gifted enough. You are stuck because you have not yet built a practice, a deliberate, structured, consistent system for becoming the person you already know you can be. The invisible phase is real. You will go through it. The plateau is real. You will sit on it. At some point, if you stay in it long enough with intention, you will hit 32 degrees and things will begin to melt. Here is your one takeaway from today. Start your deliberate practice tomorrow. Pick one skill, set one specific goal for the first session. Don't try to be perfect. Don't try to go fast. Just show up with intention. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not made of talent, it is made of hours. And hours are something every one of us has the power to spend differently. Thank you so much for watching. If this episode gave you something to think about, or better yet, something to act on, please subscribe to Korejo Views and hit the bell icon. Every new episode is built to give you something real. I'm always in your corner, wishing you happy, healthy, and purposeful life. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.